welcome into another podcast episode for Coatings Pro magazine. I'm Stephanie Chiswick, editor-in-chief of Coatings Pro. Today joining us is Jim Kunkel. He's manager of business development for accreditation and certification, and he's with the newly formed Association for Material Protection and Performance, or AMP, which is the result of the merger of the Society for Protective Coatings, or SSPC, and NACE International. We're also recording the video of this chat, so head on over to our website or to YouTube if you'd prefer to check in to the video version. Thanks so much for joining us, Jim.
Stephanie, it's an honor to be here with you today, and I'm really looking forward to working with you in the future.
Me too. I'm excited for what the future holds. So let's maybe start by giving our listeners and viewers now a bit of your background.
So for the association, for AMP, I'm the manager of business development for the accreditation programs, which would be the old SSPC QP programs, and also for certification programs. And the certification programs would be related to the craft worker certifications, the inspector certifications. But my background with the Society for Protective Coatings has been working with owners, engineers, and specification firms to incorporate the programs such as QP and the certifications into the specification, job requirements, and things like that. I'm a certified protective coating specialist, and I also have a training in quality control systems, protective coatings inspector, concrete coatings inspector. So, when it comes related to coatings, I have a pretty good depth of knowledge of the industry. Although I don't have a lot of practical hands-on experience, I do work a lot with contractors, so I know exactly what they go through in a given day and related to project work, and what environment they're currently facing in this year 2021.
Yeah, I mean, you clearly have a very sort of wide spectrum of your experience, which I'm sure helps you to be able to talk to those people who are in the field and kind of know what their pain points are. I've also I met you years ago when we were in at the trade shows and convention centers, and that's probably a big portion of your job from what I understand, as far as, giving the trainings and those kinds of things. So things have been different these days. How is that working out for you?
So what I normally would do, I had a pretty heavy travel schedule, like you said, with conferences and trade events and things like that, but also going on site if it's an oil and gas company, if it's a wastewater operation, or if it's, even working internationally in South America, where I work with a lot of different government entities and a lot of the national oil companies. So now, instead of getting on an airplane or getting in a vehicle and driving, now I'm doing all my traveling virtually. And actually, for me, it's been a seamless transition. Although at the beginning of the pandemic, let's say March, April timeframe, when things really started to kick in, sometimes offices were closed. People weren't readily available to do sessions and things like that. But as the business environment got acclimated to COVID and different types of regulations and lockdowns and things like that, it became a little bit more consistent. Just like if you're physically there, now you're just doing everything on Zoom, either Skype or Teams, and those type of different portal systems that are available for businesses.
Do you find that it's more of like a real-time availability of being able to talk to these people in the field? I just have to imagine that they're probably able to get a much quicker response because you don't have to hop on a plane or that kind of thing. And if that's maybe one of the silver linings that's potentially come out of this, and how it could, affect the industry potentially long term.
It actually has. And to give you a good example, some months ago I had a session with a Department of Transportation, and they had their field inspectors also participate while they were on break at job sites. So we were able to go through a lot of different things related to some of the standards. And then obviously I was able to update them on where the current state was between NACE International and the SSPC merger. But it was kind of neat because if I was physically there, we would probably have to conference call them in, but virtually they can take it from an iPhone, an Android phone. They can take it from an iPad, laptop, desktop, whatever. And it worked out beautifully just for the availability. And there's been times where I've had engineering firms say, listen, we want to have a lunch and learn. Can you be available tomorrow to do a lunch and learn? And I take advantage of that. Or if a major company, coating manufacturer, says, hey, we're having a webinar. Would you like to participate tomorrow or next week or whenever it is? Again, instantaneously, if my schedule is available, I'm there. I'll do it.
Yeah, I think I'm looking forward to the Corrosion show this year too. That's going to be virtual, and I think, to touch on a few of your points, that people who might not normally be able to attend are going to be able to go, or if you have a really busy schedule, you can probably, fit in a few different sessions, sort of, that kind of thing. So, yeah, I think there are some opportunities certainly. Are you seeing any other opportunities out there that might have this specific situation might have long-term effects on?
Well, I think it does come to the aspect of these conferences and events. Now, what's nice about the virtual is that the events have improved, and from what I've learned related to the Corrosion 2021, it's not going to be a basic, get on Zoom and do things on Zoom. There's going to be a lot behind it, and obviously a lot around it as well. So it should be a very robust virtual show. I know earlier in 2020, when people were going to virtual, it tended to be more basic Zoom type things where people would present and you could watch them and you could interact a little bit. But, I know that our organization at least has really looked into, ways to improve that virtual experience, so that when we can get back into having the physical experience, at least it helps get us through this time period until the pandemic gets under control and we're able to all come back together again. And we all will. We all will.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, it's great points. And you're also sort of touching on too, what we've already mentioned briefly is the merger of SSPC and NACE International. And so, how that also might be affecting the industry moving forward. Are you seeing or hearing things that kind of, might help us take us to the next level of the industry, the coatings industry, the corrosion industry, what have you?
Well, I can tell you, past history, the merger was attempted years back. It didn't work out. This time, with the position of the industry, and as we're moving further into the 21st century, we have a thing coming up in this industry that we all work in, both corrosion side and also the coating side, digital transformation. And that also comes to place with organizations. Organizations either grow or they die. And this is an opportunity for both NACE International and SSPC, the Society for Protective Coatings, to evolve with the industry, but also branch out and get into other types of aspects and touch points that we can with other different industries globally. And that's where the opportunity is for our association is to move into the deeper into the global industries and become connected with a lot of different aspects: research, development, manufacturing, the owners, the assets, everything that's out there, materials. So it's a great opportunity for our organization, and I'm very happy to say that everybody I talk to really support it. I think the challenge we have is obviously we have a new name now, and we have to get out there and talk about who we are, what we are, and also lay out the groundwork that we're not going to be just a corrosion organization and a protective coatings organization. We're going to grow. We're going to evolve into something very, very special.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned the global aspect of it. I think to me, one of the best parts about my job, at least, is the opportunity to get to be a part of this amazing community of contractors in the coating world. And whenever I talk about it with my friends or people who are not in the industry, it's interesting because they just don't understand until I point it out of what a broad reach that corrosion and coatings in particular as a mitigation, system, so to speak, but how broadly they can cover not only our lives but also just globally how much it affects everyone. It's fascinating to me.
Oh, definitely. And to the point where you say you talk to your friends and tell them what you do and they don't understand it. When I first started with SSPC, I would explain to what I do, working with owners, engineers, and specification firms, and my friends would say, wait a minute, but you're not selling a widget, you're not selling anything to them, they're just putting it into specification. And, when I pointed out to them, I guess the best way to describe it was to say, okay, let me do it this way. I know my title is sales, but I'm more like an evangelist. I go out there and I'm really spreading the information, the knowledge, but also showing owners and showing people who go out there to protect assets. There is a different way to work with an organization like ours, but also with contractors, with the paint manufacturers, with all these different entities. And that's what's unique about, where Coatings Pro focuses on contractors in SSPC, we are primarily, looked as a contracting, we work a lot with contractors, is that now with AMP, it's a partnership. It brings industries together, educators together, researchers together, engineers, coating contractors, blast and paint shops, manufacturers. It brings the whole communities together. And, as I look at the communities of interest that we'll create globally, that's going to be really powerful. And, again, there's no limit to what we really can do with this association.
Yeah, I really see it as kind of like one of those like color wheels where, you might have the contractors over here and the assets over here, and in between you've got the inspector, the engineer, the specifier, all different kinds of the user, the end user at that and so, and we're basically, the goal is to be able to give them a chance to talk to who they need to talk to. I think it's a great opportunity.
We are the bridge. We are the bridge, and we will provide the pathway for everyone to work together to improve both, really improve all industries, but also focus on the challenges that we have ahead of us. We've got aging infrastructure globally, just as much as we talk here in North America about bridge and highway structures and the power grid. The same things are happening in different other parts of the world as well. So, we really need to tackle a lot of these big issues, but also look too at future technologies and how we can be involved with future technologies. So it's an interesting time. And you think about it, yourself, myself, we're really the beginning. We're the pioneers related to the organization. So, I can imagine I'm going to be 55 in May, in 20, 30 years, let's say, I come back to one of the conferences with AMP just to see the next generation, what they're doing. And that's really what I find interesting, is the generational work that we're laying out, and that we're working with young professionals. We're working with craft workers. Again, we're working with universities and educators. So it's a pretty neat job to have. I'm real happy with what I do and the organization I work with.
Yes, exciting time for sure. And that's actually a kind of a perfect segue. So you've set it up for the future. You've been in the industry for 13 years. How have you seen the industry change over that time?
Well, I've seen the biggest change for me has been related to the digitalization, the digital transformation that's going on. The other thing is a corporatization. For example, with contractors, 13 years ago, and you go back in time, there still are, but you had a family-owned contracting operations. Like I could say, they're still there, but we're seeing over the last number of years the corporatization, corporations coming in and purchasing these operations and then putting them into their portfolio. I do believe that trend will continue to happen. And obviously, when we're looking at these big general contractors and things like that, they want to be kind of a, one-stop. They do everything from, design, build, the construction, and all that other type of stuff that goes with it. So I do see that consolidation going on. It's not a bad thing, but it's also an opportunity. And then the other challenge, too, that we have more now is it's very difficult in North America. And when I travel in Latin America, it's not always the same in Latin America when it comes to the labor force. But here in North America, we are having a challenge in getting craft workers, getting the young generation to come into the trades. And, I've had opportunity where I've met, abrasive blasters who make really, really good money. And it doesn't matter gender, it doesn't matter, what your focus is. There's a great opportunity to come, from high school, go into the trades, and to make a really good living. And then guess what? When you decide one day, I really don't like to be a blaster or painter, I want to become an inspector. If you've worked your career path out properly, you have a perfect segue to go into the next level of your career and really get a long-term career that's rewarding and very fulfilling.
Yeah, there's definitely the potential, I would say, for growth within the industry. And at least in my experience, the people who I talk to on the contractor side who we do, something called a profile with them where we really interview them and talk to them about how they got started in the industry. And a lot of times it's because they're dad or their grandfather or someone, was already in the industry, and so they were familiar with it. And I think that's really interesting because it kind of shows that people don't necessarily purposely come into the industry, but they find themselves here and they find that they love it and that it's a good home for them. So, you don't have to know exactly that you want to be in the coatings industry, for example, to find your way here. Probably like both of us.
And then being involved either in commercial painting or industrial painting, it's a noble thing to do, and it's needed. It's vital. I mean, that's what protects our infrastructure. And more than anybody, if you don't put a coating system on these assets, they're going to succumb to corrosion. They're going to fail. So if we want to get a longer life cycle out of whatever the asset is, we got to make sure we maintain it, we preserve it, and we protect it.
Yeah, that's a great tagline, Jim. I love that. You also you mentioned the consolidation on the contractor side. I've also seen it on the coating manufacturer side. So especially at like the International Roofing Expo, where they'll have a lot of these little roof coating manufacturers are starting to either join forces together or be, purchased by a larger associate or a larger coating manufacturer. So I've seen that trend as well on that side of the house too. It's interesting.
Yeah, you definitely see that, Sherwin-Williams or a PPG or an International, AXO, you see a lot of acquisitions going on. That trend also goes globally too. In Latin America, there's been a lot. In South America, there's been a lot of consolidation with the coating manufacturers, some of them from the majors, but some of them from the regional players in South America as well.
That's interesting. That'll be an interesting one to kind of stay on top of too as the year progresses. I'm sure it'll just be continuing as we continue through the year. Yeah.
Well, and the other thing too is with the technologies that are changing. Now you're starting to read stories about self-healing coatings, ballistic coatings, the antimicrobials that are coming out. I just recently did an interview with a scientist related to peelable coatings that can be used inside and outside. And it's just amazing to see the technologies that are coming. Now, back to the trades, that requires specialized, certified surface preparation personnel and coating application personnel as well. And inspectors.
Yeah, absolutely. Have to have the right people doing it. Yeah. Well, one of the things I also wanted to touch on before we close out our chat today is you are incredible at social media. I've definitely seen you over on LinkedIn, very interactive, YouTube. I think you also do Twitter and Facebook. So do you have any tips for our listeners out there who might be interested in using social media for their business? Which platforms for which types of things, or just what you've experienced?
So my first advice would be brave and do it. Just go out there and do it. So I started my YouTube channel at the beginning of 2020. And if people go back and watch the first videos I did, interviews, they were really horrible. I was nervous. The editing was bad, but I got better over time. So I learned a lot about myself, but also how to edit and do a lot of things like that. But the nice thing about it is I encounter and I've acquired a lot of different information. And that's what I really want to be able to do, is provide the information to people, but also want to show to others that this industry we work in is absolutely a very exciting industry. And LinkedIn has been the most powerful resource tool for me, both as a professional business development person, but also as a professional, and then also too to get information out there. The interactions that I have, I do a daily quiz question. I do Global Topic, which is on the YouTube channel, and then I do a thing called 2-minute lessons every weekend, where I'll have short 2-minute lessons on different topics related to coatings and corrosion. But engage people, like and share stuff that you really like and find interesting, but also communicate with people. If they post something like, jobs, flooring job, and you can say nice job, or hey, that looks great. But for me, I'm being very sincere when I do say that, because I'm impressed with the quality of work that I see out there, and I really love companies that go, hey, we're a quality contractor, and this is the work we do, and this is why you want to work with us. So, I say LinkedIn. Obviously, Facebook has its own thing. I'm now trying things regarding IGTV or Instagram TV, doing the short lessons on there as well. So, I could see Instagram, probably a little bit of, YouTube, obviously. LinkedIn is probably the primary source, I think, for everybody to really use. It's a great resource.
Okay, great. Thank you for those tips. Yeah. Is there anything else that you'd like to add before we end our chat today?
Well, what I'd like to say is, if anybody would want to, connect with me on LinkedIn, just search under James Kunkel. Please connect with me. If you're an owner, if you're a specification writer, if you are an engineering firm, and you really need some type of, again, I'm not a consultant, but I'm a resource for you. If you want to know more about contractor accreditation, you want to know more about quality craft worker certification from AMP, please reach out to me. I could do a 15, 20-minute, half-hour session with you, lunch and learn virtually. And, this way you get a lot of good information and understand and make an informed decision when you're redoing your spec or you're looking to add things in related to standards. I have a good knowledge related to SSPC standards and some of the industry standards that are out there as well associated with protective coatings. So, please feel free to utilize me as a resource to help you in your jobs, in your profession.
That's perfect. Yeah, I will. I'll give a testimonial that you're a great asset. So I think people should definitely reach out to you. Like I said before, check out his YouTube, connect on LinkedIn and all the other social media platforms, and reach out, communicate, and see. It's definitely, social media is supposed to be social, so let's use it that way and get what we need to get done.
And that's the way it's supposed to be used.
Yes, absolutely. All right. Well, thanks again to Jim Kunkel. He's Manager of Business Development for Accreditation and Certification at the newly formed AMP, AMPP. Thanks so much, Jim, for joining us today, and hopefully you'll get to connect again sometime in person, hopefully in the future.
Thank you, Stephanie. I really appreciate it. Everyone have a great day.
Thank you. And as always, happy coding.
Calling all coatings contractors. We have a great resource for you. Coatings Pro magazine provides you with the latest news, trends, and technologies for your coating needs. And the best part, it's completely free to anyone who signs up. Simply visit coatingspromag.com/subscribe. Coatings Pro, know what the pros know.